Okay, and now we'll tell you the parts or the sections of the head. This is the anterior part, which is the head region, and the posterior part is down here in the leg region, and then the ventral part would be the stomach, right here, and we actually cut him open already, and then the dorsal side is his back.
Now obtain tweezers and a dissecting needle. You will be removing the fat and connective tissue. Do not use a scalpel, as the dissecting needle allows you to be more precise. Pinch up the fat or connective tissue and use the dissecting needle to slowly peel and separate it away. Look at that technique. Eventually, after hard work and time, you'll be able to just pull it all away, exposing the muscle.
This muscle right here is the xiphoid humerus. It originates in the xiphoid process, which is the most posterior part of the sternum, and inserts on the humerus. There is no muscle corresponding to this in man. This is the pectoralis minor. It is the bigger of the two pec muscles in cats, and it originates on the mid-posterior sternum and inserts on the humerus. This is your pectoralis major, the other pec muscle. This originates on the anterior part of the sternum, and it inserts on the humerus. Lastly is, of these muscles right here, is the pectoanchibrachialis, which originates in the manubrium, which is the most posterior part of the sternum, and inserts on the fascia of the ulna, which is near the elbow. All of these muscles function in adduction. Lastly is the latissimus dorsi, which is this muscle right here. This originates from the mid-dorsal line, extending from the 4th thoracic vertebrae to the 6th lumbar vertebrae, and inserts on the humerus. And the function of this muscle is caudal depression. Congratulations, you have just passed checkpoint 1. Now we will move on to checkpoint 2. This is your external oblique. It originates in the posterior of the ribs, and the lumbodorsal fascia, which is an aponeurosis on the dorsal side, which is under the cat, kind of hard to see since it's tied down. It inserts upon the aponeurosis on the mid-ventral side of the cat, which is right here, and an aponeurosis connects muscle to muscle.
That aponeurosis is called the linea alba.
And the function of the external oblique is trunk compression. This muscle is the internal oblique, which is hard to there. Right here, under the external oblique, you are not required to know the origin and insertion, but it functions in trunk compression. Under it is the transverse abdominis, which is right here, under the internal oblique. You are not required to know the origin and insertion, and it functions in trunk compression. Last but not least is the rectus abdominis, which are these muscles right here on either side of the aponeurosis. It originates from the pubis and extends cranially to insert on the upper ribs and sternum, and its function is trunk depression. Congratulations, you have just passed checkpoint 2. Now we will close with checkpoint 3, which is the head and neck muscles. This is the sternomastoid. This muscle originates on the manubrium of the sternum and inserts on the mastoid process, and its function is to rotate and lower the head. The masseter is the large cheek muscle right here on the cat, which originates on the zygomatic arch and inserts on the mandible, and its function is to elevate the mandible. The digastric muscle is right here, right under the chin. On the left side, it's the darker of the two muscles you'll see in here, and it originates on the mastoid process and inserts on the mandible, and its function is to depress the mandible. Next to it, you'll see the mylohyoid, which is the muscle directly to the right. It originates on the mastoid process. Correction, it originates on the mandible and inserts on the mid-ventral raphe, and its function is to pull the floor of the mouth up. Moving down here is your sternothyroid, which runs diagonally across the trachea, right here. This muscle originates in the first rib cartilage and inserts on the thyroid cartilage, and its function is to depress the larynx. Last but not least is a pair of muscles called the sternohyoid, which overlaps the sternothyroid right here and here. They originate on the nubrium and insert on the hyoid bone, and their function is to depress the hyoid bone and larynx. Congratulations, you have just passed checkpoint 3. So we're going to start telling you about the organs of the cat. When the cat eats food, it goes in its mouth where chemical digestion starts occurring with this secretion of salivary enzymes, and then it travels down the esophagus where it goes to the stomach, which is right there. And the stomach is a J-shaped muscle that is the site of storage and mechanical breakdown. So there are muscle contractions and digestion that occurs with proteins. And there's also minimal absorption of water, salts, as well as drugs in the stomach. It travels to the small intestine. And the small intestine has a large surface area for increased absorption.
Their heart is open and you can see all the...
And many enzymes are produced here,
Very nice.
such as carbohydrases and pepsidases. And then moving on to the liver, which is right here. The liver produces bile, which emulsifies lipids, and bile is not an enzyme, but the lipids then go into the stomach, or the enzymes go into the stomach and aid with the digestion process. The pancreas, you want to show that? Produces pancreatic juices such as water, bicarbonate ions, and pancreatic amylase, trypsin, chymotrypsin, lipase, and nuclease, and it is the site of mechanical breakdown, as well as more digestion, such as carbs, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. And also the large intestine. Got it? This is a tube that frames the small intestine, and it is the site of absorption of water, salts, minerals, and vitamins, and it's also where elimination takes place once the feces is made, I guess, after everything is absorbed. It then moves to the rectum and is excreted through the anus. And that is all for our inside of the cat.